Kristin, thanks for joining us. First up, I wanted to offer my sympathy because Charlie Kirk is someone you knew as a friend. So I wonder if you could first off tell us a little bit about your friendship with Charlie Kirk and what a significant figure he became at a young age in American politics.
Yeah, I first met Charlie in Dallas back in 2013. I arrived in Dallas at a conference as a bright-eyed college student. Barack Obama had just been reelected president, so most young people in the country were very left-wing. And I met Charlie at that conference. He was maybe 19 years old at the time, Chris. And I have to tell you, I've never encountered a young person to this day with that kind of passion that Charlie had. And, of course, he went on to become this force in American politics. It was incredible to watch his career. You can't be in this industry and not, know Charlie Kirk. And he's one of those rare people that everyone in the conservative media space likes. With most people, you find some people who have gripes with them or have issues or don't like them. Not Charlie. He was pretty much universally liked. He was a decent, moral, good person. He was the voice of a generation. And many people in our industry thought this is a kid who someday will be president. He was the leader of the conservative movement for our generation. He was tall, he was a great speaker, he was attractive, he was persuasive, and he has changed countless young hearts and minds. We're a country in mourning right now. Conservatism will never be the same. American politics will not be the same without Charlie Kirk. God rest his soul and God bless his family. He leaves behind 2 young children and a lovely wife.
Let's stay on his legacy for a moment and hear what the president had to say about that.
An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close.
Yeah, a positive take, I suppose, on a tragic situation. I think it's right what you say, Kristin. A lot of people suggest this is a bloke who could have ended up being president, and tragically, we will never know. But it's also another instance of political violence in the United States. Now, that's not new. We know the US has a long history of political violence, but there's been a wave of it in the last decade or so. People are talking about it feeling like a tsunami. There must be incredible concerns about political violence in the US, and particularly that from the left directed at the right. It goes both ways, we know, but there has been a lot of left-wing violence against the right in recent years.
It was not particularly hard to see something like this coming. In fact, back in 2015, I wrote an article for The Hill that went super viral, and it was about violence exploding in the left wing. And at the time, this article was mocked by leftists and by the mainstream media. They were laughing about this idea that, leftists would, encourage political violence against, people who don't share their values. But it was actually predictable to see it leading here. Starting back in 2014, 2015, you had Democrats, high-up Democrats, insinuating that people right of center, especially Trumpian figures, were Hitlerian, fascists. And then in 2017, Steve Scalise was shot at the congressional baseball game. You had high-profile right-wingers like Ted Cruz and Sarah Huckabee Sanders being heckled out of public places, shouted down. This kind of behavior escalated. And then when Trump was inaugurated after the 2016 election, there were 200 violent leftists that were indicted for committing violence that day. And then, of course, it just got worse from there to the crescendo when Donald Trump himself had an assassination attempt against him. And now this, Charlie Kirk assassinated in cold blood. It is sickening. And there is a culture of violence on the left. This is a problem. And our media and figures on the left need to do something about it, need to recognize it, and they need to stop now before more people get killed.
Well, sickeningly, Kristin, on the left-wing MSNBC, within hours of this assassination, there were people actually saying that Charlie Kirk effectively had this coming. Have a look.
He's been one of the most divisive especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
That is outrageous. That is the opposite to what we should be talking about, and MSNBC has apologised for that. But I want to finish on this point then, Kristin, because Charlie Kirk was passionate about the public square, about our need to disagree respectfully. We need that in public debate. We need to have all the arguments, no matter how tough they are, but without violence. And yet his life ended like this.
Yeah, he was a champion for free speech. And unfortunately, the media has created this climate of hysteria against right wingers. If the name Donald Trump comes up, they become completely crazy, almost crazed. And this rhetoric that they broadcast on their networks, it really can radicalize some unstable people to engage in political violence. So we need more free speech, we need more dialogue, and we need to help these people understand on the left that, just because you disagree with someone on politics doesn't mean that that person is evil. You can think that they're dumb, but it doesn't mean that they're evil, and it never justifies violence. This is a conversation America needs to have.
Well said, Kristin, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Chris.